Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I am here with Tyler Jones and Glen Willis after the Hawks defeated the Detroit Pistons in overtime in a roller coaster game. Uh, Tyler, what did the Hawks do right to get ahead in the first half?
Well, they kind of did it right the whole game, which was their offense. Their offense was good, I felt, throughout the majority of the game, except for the third quarter. Uh, and just in general, that allowed them to set their defense, take away the easy stuff from Duran, because that's really the only thing that the Pistons had. Everything else, the Hawks could account for more or less. But Duran, you have to hit him early, get him off his spots, force him, above the break, make him a dribbler, all that good stuff. And too often, particularly in the first half or the first quarter, they weren't being physical with. They weren't tagging him. Like they were letting him go uh unmolested more or less, and he was just getting, easy shots at the rim. Once they started tagging sooner from the weak side corners, forced the Pistons to play, to make shots, or more importantly, like close out to him and then rotate back to the shooter and then be in a good defensive position. Once the Hawks started doing that, they started consistently getting more stops. Offensively, they were killing the Pistons all game when they were not turning the ball over. The problem was they were turning the ball over a metric ton, particularly starters. The starters cannot, uh, you know, have a game like that again against a good team. Period. They cannot play that recklessly offensively where I felt like a lot of the turnovers were just lackadaisical, like just not ready for the physicality. We saw this against the Rockets. Same scenario against the Pistons, where it felt like the Hawks just were not physically or mentally prepared for the physicality. And it led to like a bunch of careless turnovers. Now, I will also say, and Glenn will probably, you know, expound on this point, like the referees were just letting the Pistons do whatever. You know,
Yep.
you got to play through the physicality. I understand that, but like that was, I'm still of the opinion. At the end of the day, you still have to be stronger with the ball, and like these are like there's no rotation the Hawks can go to. This is the Hawks' best lineup. These are the Hawks' best players. You can't have Jalen Johnson, C.J. McCollum, and Dyson Daniels all have four more turnovers in one game, especially Dyson. Like Dyson has to be nails on the turnovers, and he was just sloppy too often. He was shying away from uh, some of the turnovers where he wasn't being aggressive enough at the rim. He improved that as the game went along. Jalen, they're attacking his spin move. He's got to recognize that sooner. And then CJ is just a team. Like I felt like CJ's turnovers were more often a team issue where they were leaving him on an island against Osor Thompson, one of the best perimeter defenders in the sport, and not helping him at bare minimum bring the ball up the floor. Like, I understand they're trying to get into their sets, but there needs to be like CJ's 33 years old, man. Like he cannot be tasked with bringing the ball up against literally one of the best defenders in the sport. That is not smart. You have the point of this team is have multiple good ball handlers.
Yes.
You got to trust them to get the ball up and run your offense. I understand like there's certain actions they want to run with CJ at the top of the key, and that doesn't work if he's not bringing the ball up. But like, you know, we got to adjust. You got to adjust. You got to acknowledge, hey, if Osora's picking me up 94 feet, somebody else got to bring the ball up. Like that's simple. That they do that simple thing. I feel like they don't go to overtime, but it, it's tough. Like there's some other stuff we can get into, but I thought that was kind of what the situation was.
I would add with Jalen, like he's got to be more cognizant on these long passes, these skip passes. He's got to be aware of when somebody's trying to overplay at the top and jump a passing lane. He's putting the ball up for grabs. They weren't all turnovers, but some of them were near turnovers too.
Yep.
Glenn, the Pistons went on a big run to start the second half. What was the Hawks' problem in that moment, and how did they recover, from the fourth quarter on?
Yeah, the Pistons were more committed to their defense when they came out third quarter. They were playing harder. They're generating more ball pressure. You know, a point on the officiating. There's sort of point counterpoint here. Point. This is a regular season game. The officiating was weird. I mean, they were really not calling obvious fouls. Counterpoint. This is exactly how playoff games are officiated. This is exactly how it goes in the playoffs. And the Hawks should learn from this game that when they get in the playoffs, this is how it's going to go. They're going to not call fouls, right? And you have to be prepared for that. So the little silver lining maybe there. Good that they got the win. Unfortunately, had to go to overtime. But this team just kind of keeps grinding and keep working. They take a mature approach. And they just kind of kept working and working and working. Um, didn't lose their cool like I did on social media with just some of the obvious no calls. I mean, Duran was pushing on rebounds the whole game. Tobias Harris got away with a push off on the last possession. But like I said, this is how this is how every single playoff game will be officiated. So note that, Hawks fans. But for me, I think one of the noteworthy tweaks of the game tonight is like Anyeka really had a hard time dealing with Duran, and so Quinn went to Lansdale,
Was
for a
that how
lot.
much of that was physicality? How much of it was foul trouble?
It was
It was
foul
a
trouble.
it was like two-thirds physicality, maybe one-third foul trouble. I mean, part of it was just again the referees allowing him to just really be physical and kind of push his defender around. Jock didn't allow as much of that. It's not like Jock was perfect, but he was stronger, and he was more proactive defensively dealing with Duran, and I think that's one of the main reasons they won the game was that Quinn rolled with Jock kind of down the stretch in that sense. So I thought that was a good move on Quinn's part. I don't always love CJ on for those defensive possessions late. I don't like, can we get Mo on instead? In that sense. But Quinn's like, I don't know, NBA coaches like trust their veterans, I guess is still a thing. But I would have preferred a better either Vincent or Mo, on for whoever, in that sense. If let's say you switch everything 1 through 5. But I mean, no, I mean, just I think they can look back at this and realize this is how playoff games will be officiated. We've got to be ready for that. But they just kept working and they just kept working and kept working and kept working and didn't get too distracted, didn't get a technical foul on some, ridiculous call here and there, just kind of, stayed on task, and that's why they won the game.
I thought I agree. Like I thought he had some struggles, but like just his physicality kind of kept the Hawks into this game. And I felt bad for Okongwu because like a couple of those calls against him just weren't fouls. Like they just weren't fouls. Like and
Yep.
so that's frustrating. And it brings up an issue like Okongwu cannot get into foul trouble. Because I did feel like there were some possessions late in the fourth quarter where things kind of got a little wonky where Kongu would have helped. He's just a better basketball player than Landale is. So, but overall, I thought Landale was fine. And I didn't necessarily have a problem subbing CJ out of the game for this reason. The Pistons don't have Cade Cunningham. If Cade Cunningham was playing, you absolutely got to do offense for defense, right? But without really a dominant, lead ball creator, I think it was more valuable just to have CJ on for the offensive possessions, maybe catch them in transition. And I think they did catch them a couple times doing that, or one time. They just didn't make Nikhil just missed the shot. So like I do think it's a gamble I thought Quinn was going with, except for like the last possession. Like it's like last possession of the game. You might as well just have Mo out there. Like why not? But I do think that was one of those where I think Quinn was just CJ was playing well. Like and he wants to reward him. This is veteran coach stuff. He wants to reward him with consistent playing time. So that's kind of where I'm standing there. But I mean, there was a lot that happened in this game. It is like Glenn said, This is what playoffs are going to be like. So it's good they responded to getting kicked in the teeth in that third quarter to pull it out.
How do you think Jalen Johnson looked in his return? What do you
First
think,
half, he
Sean?
dominated.
Yeah, he had dominant second quarter. He was very comfortable there. But I mean, Detroit wasn't playing that hard on defense. They were just kind of, half engaged on defense. And but the third quarter, they really were taking. They were not letting the Hawks run what they wanted to run on half the possessions. They're just kind of getting up into you and blowing up everything. And so that's where having CJ just as a, an adult in the room, kind of with the ball in his hands, kind of be able to kind of get to his shots and make plays and such was helpful, even though it was kind of up and down last few minutes of the fourth quarter, then even in overtime, he's to Tyler's point, like Sar Thompson's one of the best, point attack committers in the league. But CJ was still able to, get an and one that really helped, protect kind of the game going to overtime and such. So, but Detroit plays hard. I mean, they play hard and they play physically, and they know they can hang their head on that. They're not a good three-point shooting team. They know that. Like Duncan Robinson is really the only kind of legitimate three-point shooter they have on the team, and so they try to attack the paint, constantly. And the Hawks were a little too casual at letting the get middle a lot tonight. Now, Detroit got a lot of leeway on their screens. They set a million legal screens tonight. But like I said, that's going to happen in the playoffs. They're not going to call those in the playoffs. So the ball got middle a little too easily, I think, tonight. And then Duran was able to kind of seal, smaller players too many times both in the half court and in a few transition opportunities. So that, in that sense, it's like just foul him before he catches the ball, especially if you're not in the bonus yet, just kind of take the foul before the ball gets to him. So there's some strategic choices to make around that. Um, but they had a really good defensive possession the last possession. Jalen did a good job kind of contesting, Tobias on that play. Got a good contest there, even though Tobias pushed him off, and then Duran got away with a ridiculous push in the back on the rebound. Um, but they just stayed composed. Like even when Detroit went on a massive run early in the third quarter, they didn't freak out. They didn't kind of lose their mind. They didn't lose their confidence. They just like, okay, let's just keep working. Let's just keep working. And that's what gets you to the point where you can kind of restabilize your play and kind of level out the game again and have it be more of a back and forth than coming out of that big run. So they just stay composed, even though I don't think they made a field goal in the third quarter till about 8.5 minute mark or so. So that was a long drought, but they didn't freak out. So that's good.
Tyler, I think you
Well,
tweeted about. Oh, go ahead.
I think they did freak out, but they had such a big lead that it was fine that they were able to recover. So, but they absolutely like lost the plot in that third quarter. That can't happen. You know, um, if they want to beat the Celtics, they got to play for full 48 minutes. So yeah. But go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm asking you the question anyway. So you tell me what you think about this. But I think you tweeted something about the ongoing Kispert Riza thing, and there were just moments in this game where it just, for me personally, it baffled me that Kispert was still in the game. But I wanted to know what you thought about it at that junction.
I mean, I'm with you. I didn't like it, but I did understand it from the perspective of we need all the ball handlers we can get here, and Kispert is a better functional ball handler than Riche. Now, all that aside, Riche's just a better player, and I think Quinn was a little too quick to punt on Reese. I think when things get tough, Quinn relies on his veterans, right? And Kispert just has a longer track record um, in the NBA than Riche does, and has more functional offensive skill than what Riche does. Because defensively, I do think the Hawks were missing Riche defensively a lot, though. And I thought the Hawks were getting good stuff from the Gabe Vincent, Riche Kuminga, pairing. I don't know why. Like, if I'm going to be honest, why go away from that? Why go away from that? That is a fair question that somebody has to. I'm sorry, somebody has to put up the Quinn Snyder, Gabe Vincent, Riche Kuminga. extend your lead. You come into the start the second quarter with Kispert, Landale, CJ McCollum. Why? Why? It's I just think it was a misread from Quinn there to do that. Now, overall, I didn't really have a problem with the rotation because he just played the starters. And that's what Quinn's going to have to do. Like, I mean, we can cry and cope about the 3 minute stretches or whatever. The starters weren't good enough. The bench did their job for how little they played overall as a bench, unit. It's on the starters to just play better if they want to have a comfortable win. And like they're lucky they won. They ultimately are lucky they won the game a little bit, but I felt like they deserved to win for going up that many points on the Pistons on their home floor.
Yeah, I mean your point about Kispert being a better ball handler is like 100% on the nose, but just at the same time, like part of the reason you're going up against a set defense is because Kispert's getting scored on. And if you got
You're
Reza
not getting
there, they're not going to be able to get their ball pressure set up as often because you're getting stops and you're pushing it in transition when they're not, they're more in a mad scramble. But
like it just I don't know. It just doesn't make like Gabe Vincent, Ricochet, Kuminga, that works. I'm
yeah,
sorry, like it works. There's no reason. There is no reason to go away from that to just input CJ Corey Kispert into the game. There's just no reason for it. Now, again, Kispert did some stuff with the starters when it wasn't with McCollum and Lando, where I thought, okay, this is useful for them overall. But to me, I'm just like, if you don't have to go to that lineup, you don't go to it. Play Gabe more. Just flat out play Gabe more, and reduce Kispert's minutes. Like if you want to play Kispert, I'm totally fine with that. Put him out there with Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson to give Nikhil and CJ a break in terms of having a quality shooter around those two. I fully understand it. If you want to do that, go ahead and you trust Kispert more than Ricochet as a shooter. Fine. But to me, like those three guys playing together is just a death sentence. He has to stop doing that because in the playoffs, every margin matters, and there's no reason to punt away an advantage that you have with your bench unit when you're throwing out Gabe, Kuminga, Ricochet. There's no reason to punt that to go to insert Kispert with bench players. That just doesn't make sense to me.
I have more questions, but is there anything that you want to talk about, Glenn?
Well, I mean, it's interesting to look here. Like Gabe Vincent played 11 minutes. He's a team best plus 12 in those 11 minutes, to Tyler's point. Kispert, it felt like he played a whole lot. He played 12 minutes. It felt, I don't know, every possession you're like, oh, this is tough, Zach played 9. That's two, that's not enough, for me. I understand the point about ball handling and such, but I think Zach's been rebounding better of late, and he's been more active in transition of late. So, um, but Dyson played 43, Jalen played 42, Nikhil played 40. I mean, it's Quinn's in the fourth quarter. Quinn like we're going with starters, like we're just going with the starters, and that's how they won. So the starters did have a more consistent kind of flow in the fourth quarter, and then the overtime they got the stops they needed on defense, and they won the game. But we talked about last time, like depending on who your matchup is, if they avoid the play-in and get an actual kind of 7 game series, you know that Landell, Kispert, CJ lineup just has to go. It has to go. And if you want to do something else defensively, like get Mo on there to help, or switch up the rotation between Onyeka and Landell, and have a Landell come in a little early, have Onyeka be able to, I don't know what you want to do there, but yeah, I mean, Tyler's point, like Gabe and Kaminga and Zach, that group works with whoever else is on the floor at that time. Roll with that. I'm not a Kispert hater of any kind at all, but he was 1 for 5, 1 for 4 from three, and he got pushed around in this game. He really got pushed around a lot in this game. So it's okay to not play him in a really really physical matchup. That's It's okay to do, in my view. I would have preferred a little bit
And
more Mo tonight.
oh,
Um,
I just,
I know we
uh,
complain about rotations a lot. I actually thought that the way that they used Mo was good. Like you
yeah,
wanted you wanted Landale on against Duran for his physicality,
yes.
and then okay, Paul Reed comes in off the bench and they go to Mo to buy Landale some rest at the optimal time. Mo can deal with the physicality of Reed where he might not be able to with Duran. I thought that was good. I thought, Quinn, great job. We love the rotation there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just gonna be interesting to see like going into Boston, like on Friday, they're gonna have to play better than they did tonight. They just are, and to win that Boston's really good. So they're gonna have to just clean some things up. But it might be another game where these referees are starting to calibrate towards postseason, like what the whistle's like in the playoffs, and you start to see a shift the last 10 games of the season, and but the Hawks can learn from that. They should learn from that and should be realizing this is how our playoff games are going to be officiated. They're not going to call anything.
This
and I
isn't a
just want
question.
to
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to add, like, honestly, my issue isn't even necessarily with Kispert, the player. It's more of Quinn punting the extreme advantage of having two starting caliber athletic forwards that can come off your bench, that are coming off your bench right now. Why are you willingly giving that away? Understand Kuminga is probably on a minutes limit, but why are you willingly giving that away when Kuminga's in the game for Corey Kispert? That has to stop. Because, like, you know, this is, we're getting into playoff mode. Like, these games are, this playoffs started. Like, to me, playoffs have started. These last 9 games here, every game is like of the utmost, like, they have to win every game they can. They cannot afford, they could not afford to lose this game when they're up 21 points. They had to win this game. So, like, for me, why are you giving away your inherent roster advantage of having two big size forwards come off your bench? But go ahead, Kevin. Sorry, I just wanted
Oh,
to.
well, now I'll embellish it with the long version. Like I'm here in College Park and doing the Skyhawks game, but like I paid very little attention to the Skyhawks game because they had us in a weird seat behind the scorers table and I couldn't see anything. But I was close enough to the scorers table that I was probably disruptive every time Dyson got an offensive rebound because that was just like, oh my God, like how did he get that? Like watching him, like the timing and the physicality, like getting these offensive rebounds over Duran, it was like I couldn't believe some of them. Like I was just my jaw was like slack, and I was probably too loud on media row. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Hey, he works his butt off on the offensive glass. He just does. He
What
really
a
works
knack,
hard.
though. My goodness.
Yeah.
That combined with the Hawks were consistently getting the Pistons in rotation. I think we've talked about this a couple times. When you get a team in rotation, that forces them to be outside the rebounding lanes. And Dyson Daniels is a master at timing when balls coming off the rim. He reads the ball well off the rim, and he's going to, and since teams don't guard him, he's going to take advantage. And then he's going to make the right decision with the ball in his hand. So, like, again, Dyson with another fantastic game. I thought he had the one bad miss at the rim, but other than that, he was nails for the most part, except for the turnovers.
What
Yeah, the
did you
Hawks
make?
were
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. The Hawks were minus 26 on points to the paint, plus 27 3-point line. So they basically swapped it out, across those two categories. So
What did you make of the minutes? I think it was Jalen Johnson, Jonathan Kuminga, and Jock Landale at the same time. Was that just the necessity of managing the foul trouble for Onyeka, or was that just you're searching for something for the physicality that Detroit puts out there? Like, what do you think was going on there?
Landale's just bigger.
And,
I mean, he's just bigger than Onyeka, and
But with the two big
um,
forwards too.
yeah. I mean, and I mean that group should rebound better, for sure. And if Dyson's on there with him, you got another kind of elite defensive rebounder, even as a guard. So I thought it was good that Quinn kind of, rolled with that. I mean, Kuminga tonight was, you still see he's like, he doesn't look like he's 100%, but he's trying to, help, trying to do what he can, trying to get the rim. all that sort of stuff. But they're depending on if they come up against the Knicks, they're gonna have to play big lineups. If they come up against the Cavs, not as much of a necessity because they're not like Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are thinner, but like they're still have a ton of length and put a lot of pressure on you defensively. And so, Quinn might need to be like, hey, these guys need to get used to playing together because if I have to roll a big lineup out there against the Knicks, if that's who we draw in a matchup, then those guys have to have played together, before we kind of get to that point. So it'll be interesting to see if he continues to kind of, find that combination or not.
Did you have thoughts on that particular pairing? Or I guess it's not a pairing, it's three people, Tyler, with
I mean,
Kuminga, Jalen.
Lando, I thought was primarily foul trouble. So I didn't really have much takeaway from that other than Okon was in foul trouble, and if Duran's in the game, Lando has to be in the game. With Okon out with these fouls, so like that's what I took away from it. I didn't see anything unique from that other than um, something that Kuminga has to work on is just recognizing what's happened, like how he's being defended and how other, he just got to pick his spots a little bit better. Thought there were a couple times where he was just too much tunnel vision trying to get the game back himself. I thought he played well overall. I thought he was good, but there were some moments where, particularly in isolation, where he's not, an extra pass would be the better play than you know, ducking your head and going to the rim. But I do like. I mean, I'm loving overall. I'm loving what Kuminga is doing just overall. Like the physicality he brings with is just it's just an element the Hawks don't have, particularly on defense. Like there's something he does. I think he learned it from Draymond, where he will like if somebody's trying to do some movement stuff, he just bumps them or he shoves them. Not a foul, but he just lets them know that hey, I'm physically here, and it doesn't interrupt the play too much, but like that matters to me. That sets a tone. And I think they absolutely lose this game if they don't have Kuminga's physicality. Just because of the physicality that Duran plays with. Like he's a problem for the Hawks. Like primarily because I love Jalen, but he was not interested in competing with Duran physically for the majority of the game. So it's just like, well, if Okongwu is Orlando's up the floor and they got to switch, we're not getting much, from Jalen. Understandable. Like you got to pick your battle. So I get it with Duran in particular. So I thought Kuminga was better in that regard when he played next to Jalen of like, hey, Duran, you're not getting this free real estate that Jalen was just giving away.
Glenn, what's coming up against Boston?
Yeah, I mean, uh, I don't know if people watch it, but Tatum's still kind of ramping back up. But we've been trying to kind of watch a little bit of them, preparing for this game. Everybody's arguing over whether Jaylen Brown should win MVP. I say no. And he's fine if he's like fourth or fifth in voting or something like that. It's fine. He's had a great year. I mean, but SGA's there and Jokic is there and
Derek White's
there
there.
are others. I mean, Tyrese Maxey's had a great year too, but he's going to be like fifth, seventh or something like that. But I mean, they are just so committed to their principles. Like you don't get to play unless you're 100% committed to the principles of what they do on both ends of the court. That's just how it works in Boston. And they're a machine. They're absolutely a machine, and they're so good at all the little phases of the game that the Hawks have to kind of go in and be ready for that. So, their center room is obviously very different from where it was last year, but they're making it work. I mean, Kata's been helpful to them. I don't know what that looks like in the playoffs for sure. That might be a little bit weird, but I mean Boston. I think everyone assumed without Tatum. I didn't assume they were going to be bad. But they're playing rookies who absolutely know what they're doing, that know exactly where to be, what to do, what the expectations are, and they execute at a very, very high level. So it's gonna be this probably their toughest game left on the schedule the rest of the year, maybe. They got some divisional games that are really going to matter in terms of, thankfully they have the tiebreaker over Philly and Orlando. Miami's up 2-1, so that last game of the year, if that I don't, depending upon if where they are, the juxtaposition in the standings between those two teams. Be interesting to see. But I think this game on Friday is the hardest game they have left on their schedule. And they need to go in and be ready to kind of fight every single minute to try to get that win. Like every win matters right now in terms of where they land, seeding wise. They entered tonight half game behind Toronto. But Toronto's good, but watched a little bit of Toronto and Utah last night. Brandon Ingram didn't play, but I mean it was Utah, so what are you gonna do? But I think this is the hardest game they have, but then I also think the rest of the way every single game matters, and they need to win, bring their best effort every game and try to win every game they can.
Is it any more difficult just because of the contrast in styles, maybe with Detroit, that you get used to one thing and all of a sudden there's this entirely other thing that's a problem, but it's a completely different kind of problem?
In terms of Boston,
I'm gonna be honest. I think Detroit's a bigger problem for the Hawks because of
Yeah,
Dirk.
true. I would agree with that.
The Celtics, like it's scheme oriented, but the positive is on a physicality level, the Hawks are the bigger basketball team. So it's like if they lose, they're gonna lose because of like, you know,
Have a bad
they
shooting.
have bad shooting like poorly. I mean, this game should have been a 30-point blowout, except for the fact that the Hawks had no answer for Jalen Duren for like large portions of the game. They literally could not do anything with Duren, primarily when he wasn't dribbling. When he started dribbling, the Hawks were able to get the ball out of his hands. But as purely as a play finisher, the Hawks don't have the size to compete with Jalen Duren. That's an aspect of the team that they're missing. They need a big size rim protector to handle guys like Duren, so that if Okongwu has another foul trouble game, like he's able to, you're more confident in the option you go towards. I'm not saying that the Celtics are worse than the Pistons, but it's clearly been shown to me throughout this season that the teams that are physical and big, who are bigger than the Hawks, particularly uh, up and down the roster, give them the most problems. Like Mitchell Robinson would give them more trouble than anybody on the Cavaliers. Like Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, they don't bench enough. That wouldn't bother me from a pure fit, because like I feel like the Hawks schematically can compete with these teams and talent wise, but they cannot compete physically because they don't have that big size center next to them to really help if Okongwu has a game like he has tonight. Like Okongwu, like I understand a couple of the fouls were bad foul calls. He can't get into foul trouble. Like he just can't. And it's tough against going up against somebody like Duren, because then you're just gonna have to give up, you know, stuff that you could actually challenge if you were more confident in your backup. That's kind of a weakness of the roster. So like that's where I'm situated. I'm like the big physical teams are going to be teams that give the Hawks the most problems. The more finesse oriented teams, like they'll like the Celtics, is going to come down to turnovers. It's going to come down to the possession battle. Are you turning the ball over? Are you getting rebounds? That's how the Celtics have dominated for the multiple seasons now. That's how they dominate this year. That's going to be a big factor uh, against the Celtics. So hopefully they rest up tonight, tomorrow, and then get after it on Friday, because I do think they can beat them. But I do, like, to me, I'm like, even understanding that K wasn't playing, like Duren is just such a matchup nightmare for this team. Like other than Jock Lando, and okay, we're relying on Jock Lando to stop Duren. Like I feel that doesn't give me confidence. Whereas the Celtics center rotation, I feel like the Hawks have the better options, even though Kata's had a great season.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you for jumping in late after an overtime, and it's certainly been an interesting season. Excited to see how these final games go before the playoffs. And good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
Hey, Bob.